Nebraska got it done yesterday, 14-7 against the undefeated Rutgers Scarlet Knights. So in today's video, I've rewatched the game and I've come up with 5 major takeaways for the Huskers going into the bye week. So really quick, we have a lot to discuss in today's video about yesterday's performance. But hey, if you're just happy about getting a victory, I know I am. Hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel or still a returning viewer, make sure to subscribe. I post daily Nebraska football content, and I am not slowing down anytime soon, so make sure to subscribe. If you're a die-hard fan, you will not regret it. But without further ado, let's get into it, going over my 5 major takeaways from Nebraska's victory yesterday versus Rutgers. And let's get things going with the number one storyline. Is there any question? Let's talk about this defense because it was a statement game for Tony White's group. Let's start it off with the key to the game. I told you guys all week, Nebraska needed to shut down the rushing attack. Not only Kyle Monaghan, but the entire offensive line for Rutgers. They have one of the best in the country. In Nebraska, they rose to the challenge. They only gave up 78 rushing yards on the day. Rutgers only averaged 2.4 yards per carry. That's unbelievable. That's far past my expectations for this defense. So we shut down the rushing attack. We got to the quarterback, 4 sacks. Of course, James Williams had a breakout day once again. That guy is a stud. And we also won the turnover battle, 2 interceptions. Marquise Buford got one. Sear Wright got one. I thought the secondary played very well. So complete domination by this defense. They're back to being in talks about potentially being, again, a top 10, even a top 5 defense in all of college football. They proved that yesterday against a very high-powered Rutgers offense. Give Tony White your flowers. And a lot of people were coming at him over the last couple of weeks that, oh, this defense isn't playing up to snuff. They're not playing as good as we thought they were going to do. Doesn't matter. Tony White showed everybody that he is the real deal. Once again, he should be a head coach. He's one of the best coordinators in all of college football. Now, the only con I have about this defense, they were on the field too much. 70 snaps. That's way too much. And that wasn't their fault. That was the offense's fault. They did not do them any favors. And we'll get to that. Now, if I'm Tony White, there's a couple guys in that coaching staff I'm not too friendly with, and that's Marcus Satterfield and Ed Foley, because those 2 coordinators did not do their job. Tony White did more than enough. So let's talk about a couple other storylines. That's my first massive takeaway. Again, give the defense their flowers. We'll get to my game balls. We'll get to my MVPs at the end of the video. Number 2, we won a close game. A one-score game, some would even say. 14-7. Now, I will say this. It shouldn't have been a close game. It shouldn't have been a one-score game. We dominated Rutgers from the opening kickoff. It was 14-0 at halftime. You know, this offense, I thought, was pretty successful in that first half. We had a couple of missed opportunities. The defense, of course, was shutting things down. But the reason it was only a one-score game was because of the special teams ineptitude, was because of the offensive ineptitude in the second half. We had 6 or 7 straight punts. That's not good enough, in my opinion. So it shouldn't have been a close game. It was a close game. It was good to win a one-score football game. But again, we should have, if we played as good as we know we can, we would have won by a couple more touchdowns. All right, third thing, let's talk special teams. And before I get to it, it's okay to be critical about this victory. I know some people are going to be in the comment section. They'll say, we should all just be happy we won, and I'm with those people. It just depends on your outlook for this team. If you only want Nebraska to win 6 games or 7 games, you can be perfectly happy with this victory and not be critical about anything. However, if you expect more from Nebraska, if you expect Nebraska to win 9, 10, 8 games, to be, in competition with good teams like Ohio State, Indiana, then you should be a little bit critical, because what we saw yesterday, we won, but it wasn't good enough to be that upper echelon team we know we can be. So with that being said, let's get to my third storyline. The special teams is atrocious. And I talked about it last week. Is Ed Foley in the hot seat? We need to make a move there. And I don't think it's going to happen. We all know it's not going to happen. Matt Rhule doesn't fire people. Again, you can make your own judgment on that, whether that's a good call or not. I think Ed Foley should not be with the team anymore, at least not as a special teams coordinator. I'd prefer him to be just an analyst. But the special teams, once again, was terrible. We had that blocked punt that was so predictable. I actually blocked 2 punts on the day, but one of those punts went to the 1-yard line. Rutgers had it at the 1-yard line, and we could have lost the football game if they scored that touchdown. The defense stood up and got a huge stand on 4 consecutive plays. So again, I'm telling you, this defense did their job, but there were so many times where if the defense played just above average or they played good, we would have lost. They had to play at an elite level for us to win. That's scary, okay? Because they're not going to play at elite level every game. So if the defense only played good yesterday, or if they only played, decent, we would have lost because Rutgers would have scored that touchdown. They probably would have scored that touchdown. They probably would have drove at the end of the game, went down the field and scored a field goal. So listen, our defense was awesome yesterday, but their special teams was awful, and our offense was awful. So if our defense doesn't play elite every game, we're not going to be in contention to win too much. But hey, I'll give credit to Brian Bushini. He was MVP for yesterday, man. He had a couple of just bangers down the field, and he got hurt because that block punt, he hurt his back. Again, the special teams is a joke. Ed Foley, he's going to stay probably, but I don't think he should. We will see in the coming days whether Matt Rhule makes a move against a bye week. So if there's any time to make a move, it is now. Number 4, let's talk about Dylan Raiola and his performance yesterday, because call it what it is, it was not good. According to Pro Football Focus, he was the worst graded player on Nebraska's offense. Now, I know Pro Football Focus has some errors at times, but they're the most reliable statistics service in all of football, and that's honestly accurate because Raiola was not good yesterday. He completed less than 50% of his passes, 1 interception. And honestly, the biggest problem I saw with him is that his footwork was off. He didn't step into his passes. A lot of times he would underthrow and overthrow footballs because of it. And again, it just goes back to what you're expecting from Dylan Raiola. Okay, I'm not worried about Dylan Rhule. I think he's going to be fine in the coming weeks. We know how talented he is. I'm not concerned about this being an ongoing thing. It was just an off game. And he might be banged up. That's another thing, right? He had a little bit of a shoulder issue earlier in the season. So he might be banged up. I'm not worried about it. It just depends on your outlook. If you expect Dylan Raiola to only be a freshman quarterback and you're just expecting him to be decent, you don't have to be critical about this game. But if you expect him to be, a top 20 quarterback, yeah, you can be a little bit more critical about today's performance. But at the end of the day, I thought, he wasn't the reason. He wasn't really holding us back on offense. I thought there were some other issues on offense. The play calling was the biggest issue offensively. The play calling, especially in the red zone, awful. Awful at times. And we had a couple 3-and-outs. I just think inconsistency with Marcus Satterfield is a huge, huge issue, especially in the second half. He can go down the field pretty easily when the drives are scripted. When he gets into crunch time in the third and fourth quarters, oh my goodness, the offense shuts down. So we'll talk about that over the bye week, but I didn't think Raiola was the number one, worst player on this offense, or the reason this offense didn't succeed. It was the play calling, number one, and obviously the offensive line didn't do him any favors either. But again, I'm not worried about Raiola. Bad game. I told you guys in the offseason he was going to have one bad game. Today was that day, or yesterday was that day. Let's hope he doesn't have another one, and this offense steps up against Indiana, Ohio State, because we need them to. 5th thing, good vibes, man. We got the victory. We can be critical all we want, but we won the darn football game, and we're sitting at 5-1 on the season. That's a darn good record. Okay, I told you guys in the offseason we were never going to go 7-0 to start. It was never going to happen. We were always going to lose one game. Here we go. We're 5-1. 5-1 going into the bye week. And I was telling you guys also yesterday and the day before that this was big for confidence, because you want to win going into a bye week, because it's going to impact your practices, the morale in the locker room. Let's say we lost yesterday versus Rutgers. Let's say we lost. The confidence would have been shot. People have been questioning the coaching staff, questioning the decision-making of Matt Rhule. The locker room would have probably not been too happy, and then things start to compound. You lose to Rutgers, then you lose to Indiana, who's a good team, and then you lose to Ohio State. You're looking at a 3-game losing streak. We had to, not have that happen, so we won today, or we won yesterday. I keep saying today, and we got it done. So very, very good to just get that victory. The vibes are high. We have things to clean up. Good thing we have a bye week. It's much needed. Then we play a very good, undefeated Indiana team, who's probably the best team we've played by far. So that'll be a big ball game, but we have 2 weeks to talk about it. All right, guys, those are my 5 takeaways from Nebraska versus Rutgers. Let's get to my MVPs on offense and defense. Defensive MVP, James Williams with 2 sacks was great. He only had about 27 snaps on the day. He had 8 pressures in those snaps. That is ridiculous. Sear Wright also gets a game ball. Man, was he awesome. Again, he should start alongside Tommy Hill. There's no reason why Sear Wright should be on the bench. No reason why he should be on the bench. When Tommy Hill comes back, those should be your 2 starting corners. I think we should move Marquise Buford back to safety, and then probably maybe have Hartzog set the bench. So those are my MVPs on defense. Offense, there's not really a single player on offense I thought who played well. Maybe Ramir Johnson. It was just a really poor performance on offense. We look like Iowa football out there. Good defense, horrific offense. We got to clean it up. We can't have that going forward if we want to be a competent team. But we got it done. I'm happy. I hope you are too. 5-1 going into the bye. Good energy, and we have a lot to talk about over the next 2 weeks. All right, guys, let me know down below. What are your main takeaways from Nebraska getting it done versus Scarlet Knights yesterday? And hey, if you made this far in the video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And as always, folks, go Big Red, go Matt Rhule, and I'll see you in the next one.